Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today's battle is from the finals of the Minions of Fortune tournament that I was showcasing last week. This is the first in a best of 5 between Diplomat and Onjage. As a reminder, make sure you check out Clan Community and sign up for their latest tournament in which you can actually win Total War Warhammer 2. It's a long format tournament, so time zones don't matter either. Also a reminder that in this tournament that I'm highlighting right now, players lock in their factions for the duration of it and are forced to adapt to each opponent with composition during a set. Diplomat leads the Greenskins against Onjage's Empire in this best of 5. The Orc War Boss flies in to lead the Greenskins with Foe Seeker, Stand Your Ground, Wah, a Potion of Foolhardiness, and a Potion of Toughness. The Night Goblin Shaman comes in with Sneaky Stealin', Itchy Nuisance, and Gorkle Fixit, while the Goblin Big Boss simply comes in on Wolfback. Then we've got 2 units of Goblins ranked up to rank 2, 2 units of Savage Orcs, the 8 Peak Loonies, and 4 units of Savage Orc Biggins, creating an infantry line with some fodder troops, a little bit of poison, and a fair bit of heavy hitting. Armor-piercing units will be wasted on the unarmored Savage Orcs, whose physical resistance will provide them with ample protection instead. Goblin Archers and Rusty Errors provide range support and chip away at enemy health, morale, and armor with Armor Sundering, while the Goblin Wolf Riders will be able to quickly maneuver as needed to shut down enemy artillery or ranged units. Finally, the Forest Goblin Spider Riders and the Orc Boar Boy Biggins can work well together to shut down Empire cavalry and then chase after infantry or push in for rear charges, causing large amounts of devastation. The Empire comes to the field led by a General of the Empire in the air with Foe Seeker, Bloodroar, and a Potion of Toughness. His Amber Wizard flies in as well with Bloodroar and Flock of Doom. 4 units of Spearmen, 3 ranked up to rank 1, seem to suspect a decently large cavalry build that could easily take care of Empire cavalry, so Onjage opts to go in with non-large anti-large units. Sigmar's Sons and the Tattersouls add an unbreakable element to the line of 4 greatswords, while 3 crossbowmen will provide range support alongside the very mobile Outriders coming in with grenade launchers. Alright, as always, we're going to start with a conversation about deployment, and it's relatively simple from both sides of the field. Let's start with the Greenskins. Now, they've got a front line of Goblins and the 8 Peak Loonies. These guys are unbreakable. I don't think that was the point, though. They are there as sort of fodder troop. They're able to absorb initial impacts and take the initial charges as well, and perform them and hold the enemy in place, while right behind them, these Savage Orc Biggins come diving in, and these guys have Frenzy. They're immune to psychology. They can cause a lot of hurt. Right behind them, we do have the Goblin Archers as well as the Rusty Errors. I guess I'm pronouncing that correctly now because no one pointed it out in the last couple of videos. And behind them, we do have the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and these guys are able to dive in and provide support to the lines or pull back and come with the cavalry over here, wherever they might be necessary, wherever they might be needed to provide support through that poison damage. We do have the Savage Orcs back here and over here on either flank. Interesting placement there. Savage Orc Biggins are anti-large, so they would typically be placed back here instead, because of course if any cavalry comes in, you want anti-large units. But the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, they are anti-large and they are armor-piercing on either flank here. Again, able to push in from the sides if necessary, or pull in from the center here if that's where they are needed. The Orc War Boss up in the air, hidden right now, and able to get some scouting information for the Greenskins, while the Goblin Wolf Riders off to the side here are doing the same on this other flank, just making sure that nothing too sneaky is happening from either side. And the Empire, let's discuss their deployment really quickly. As you can see, these Outriders are already pushing forward to get some early action in with their grenade launchers. The General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard also pushing forward, getting some of that scouting information, making sure there's nothing too sneaky going on, and you'll see the Rusty Errors have been spotted, but the 8 Peak Loonies are being pulled back just to keep them hidden there, just to make sure that they don't get spotted nice and early. Now, over here, you'll see the main line itself of the Empire. We do have the Great Swords in the center, and then on either side, Sigmar's Sons and the Tattersouls, making sure that the flanks are unbreakable. So, great placement there, making sure that nothing's able to penetrate through the sides, and the center will hold. Great Swords are great units, so they'll hold their line, while the crossbowmen right behind them are able to provide support, a lot of range damage able to come in there. And then all the way at the back, we do have all of the Spearmen. Again, if the Greenskins try anything clever, if they have Vanguard deployed Goblin Wolf Riders, for example, these Spearmen will be able to respond, or of course they can push forward as well if they're needed up front. And so let's take a look at what happens as these Outriders get their first volley off there, as these grenades go off, blowing these goblins up to pieces, getting a lot of damage in. But you'll see, though, the Goblin Archers and the Rusty Errors are being sent up to respond. Both the Goblin Archers and the Rusty Errors will have extra range, or rather a greater range than the Outriders, so they're able to push forward and get some shots off and actually scare these Outriders away. But a decent amount of damage is done first to both of these units of Goblins, However, you'll see as the Goblin Archers there respond, and as the Rusty Arrows here respond, those Outriders do need to get pulled back into some safety, because they will lose out on a battle between ranged units. And over here, you'll see the Goblin Archers just pulled back there, holding the line there. The Rusty Arrows now firing at the General of the Empire, who is left to hover there and takes a decent amount of damage. Has to be pulled away as well. Not too much hurt, but any damage is good damage when it's up against leadership. Now, the Greenskins here do begin to push forward and give chase a little bit. They have to be careful, of course, because the General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard can both dive down into melee and cause a decent amount of damage. And I think the Greenskins were hoping to bait the Empire into pushing forward, giving up their defensive position, allowing the Goblin Wolf Riders to come in from the sides, from the rears, and of course get that flanking damage in, and then potentially also send the Orc Boarboy Biggins around the sides as well. But it became pretty clear, I think, that the Empire was going to hold its defensive position, using the Outriders to kite if necessary, rather if and when necessary. So you'll see the Greenskins now all pushing forward, getting ready to engage on the Empire's terms. As we push forward, you will see the Amber Wizard over there about to drop a spell in just a moment, as these guys are in some pretty massive clumps. And of course, we do have, there you have it, the Flock of Doom does go down, and very good management here by the Greenskins. That Flock of Doom goes down, and these Forest Goblin Spider Riders pulled off to the side, the Savage Orc Biggins over here, and the Savage Orc Biggins over here as well, just making sure that nobody gets hurt, or minimal amount of damage is done by this Flock of Doom. And I believe the Night Goblin Shaman was pulled back as well, and you'll see the line has been adjusted a little bit. It's no longer the straight line it used to be, but that was great management there just to make sure these guys don't suffer too badly at the hands of the Amber Wizard. So really nice to see that quick management there, very quick response as well. Now, with that out of the way and the Amber Wizard now on cooldown with that spell, these guys are able to push forward with a bit more confidence, and you'll see the Goblin Wolf Riders now as well committing to come in from the flank. Very risky, of course, because all of these Spearmen are covering the rears of the Empire line, so the Goblin Wolf Riders will have their work cut out for them. But with that said, you'll see the slow creep forward is happening, being cautious, making sure that the lines aren't too broken, that it is a little bit organized, that it isn't too messy. But you'll see the crossbows now opening fire, initially targeting these goblins, and I don't know if that was the best idea. In fact, I would say it would be much better to target the Goblin Archers. Ranged fire can do a lot of damage. We've discussed this multiple times, whether it's let's slow it down for a second here. Whether it's to morale or to health, ranged fire can do a lot of damage. So at this point, the crossbowmen really should have been shutting down these Goblin Archers, not only because they can cause more damage in the long run, but also because the Goblins have silver shields. So when it comes to range damage, even though they're taking a bit of it right now, they are more protected from it than, say, these Goblin Archers would have been. Now, these guys are now pushing forward. It's time for a full charge. There's no sort of no man's land where they can stand and be safe. Back there, you'll see as well the Goblin Wolf Riders just hanging back and now pushing in, getting ready for some rear charges. And you'll notice right away the Empire is making a couple of adjustments here. Some of these Spearmen at the back are being pushed forward. You'll see here this unit of Spearmen, they were ordered first, so they're almost at the front line already, while this unit of Spearmen, they were ordered second, so it's taking them a little bit longer to get to the front line. And that's a great response. Seeing these Orc Boarboy Biggins push this way rather than this way instantly tells you what the plan is. These guys are going to try and crush that front line, break through it, and get into the rears of the Empire. Great plan there by the Greenskins. However, this response as well is absolutely magnificent, and you'll see as the Orc Boarboy Biggins are closing the gaps, you will see how much of a difference the time difference made between the orders for these Spearmen and those Spearmen back there. So let's just kick it into full speed, and you'll see these Orc Boarboy Biggins charging in. They're going to get the charge before the Spearmen are able to close the gap. Over here, the grenade launchers going off as well, getting a lot of damage done. Some grenade launchers over here as well as the Orc Boarboy Biggins charge through the front line. Spearmen just a little bit too far behind, but meanwhile on this flank over here, you'll see these Orc Boarboy Biggins are charging in, and the Spearmen are there to respond. They aren't braced, they're not standing steady, but they are going to be a great buffer for these great swords. Now the crossbowmen continue to open fire at various targets. They're trying to hit some of these Savage Orc Biggins, trying to hit these Forest Goblin Spider Riders. Meanwhile, these Goblins here completely destroyed with all that grenade fire coming in, and meanwhile the Orc Warboss as well flying into the center here, while these Goblins are now being attacked by the grenade launchers of these Outriders on that flank. Now over here you'll see these Orc Boarboy Biggins terrified, made to run away. Of course, it helps that the General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard were there, but look at how much damage they took. They're at almost half health, whereas the Orc Boarboy Biggins over here are you know, relatively okay. Now, these guys were hurt by the spears. They were also hurt by the General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard, so very good management there, though it would have been better if the Amber Wizard or the General, one or the other, was sent over here on this flank instead to shut down this unit of Orc Boar Biggins as well. These guys, though, very handily taken care of and now being pulled away as Itchy Nuisance does go down over here to try and provide some support to the severely outnumbered Greenskins. They are going to be outclassed and outnumbered here, especially if the General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard decide to stay back there. The Goblin Wolf Riders as well looking for an opportunity. It is not yet safe for them to push in because, of course, these Spearmen are very easily going to respond and shut them down. And meanwhile, you'll see in the middle here, the Orc War Boss did dive into this unit of crossbows. Didn't do too much damage, but at least prevented them from opening fire. But now popping Foe Seeker and trying to get away as the Amber Wizard and the General of the Empire are getting ready to engage the Orc War Boss. And that's an extremely dangerous situation for the Orc War Boss to be in, of course. So you'll see scurrying away, trying to get the hell out of there, while the Amber Wizard dives in and the General of the Empire again flying nearby, ready to shut down the Orc War Boss. You'll notice as well now the Goblin Archers are opening fire into the clump over here, while the Rusty Arrows as well taking their shots off, currently targeting, I believe, the Amber Wizard as well as the General of the Empire. It looks like just trying to reduce their capabilities, and of course, the Orc War Boss there did a great job of sort of baiting these guys into this engagement, baiting them into this area where the range support is waiting. And you'll notice as well, the Orc War Boss is able to get a charge into the General of the Empire to do a decent amount of damage there. Good strike, seeing the Amber Wizard has fallen out of position, and Gorkle Fix-It goes down as well, slowing these guys down, not only reducing their sort of charge bonus and vigor, which can make a big difference, but also reducing their speed, which coupled with the Orc War Boss's Foe Seeker is making sure he's able to close the gap. And of course, with Wa active, all these guys are getting a lot of support in their offensive capabilities, and they also have Stand Your Ground, helping their melee defense and their leadership, and they really need it right now, especially with so much terror in the air in the form of the General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard. Blood Roar as well from both of them. That does not stack, but either of them can bring in Blood Roar, so the Greenskins need as much support as they can get. However, over here you'll see these Forest Goblin Spider Riders are being left behind. They really need to be pushed in to engage. That poison damage can make a huge difference in ending an engagement a lot quicker than it would otherwise. These Orc Boar Boy Biggins as well left here. They could have been sent in to penetrate, force these Spearmen down, or these Spearmen down as well, allowing the Goblin Wolf Riders to push in afterwards. Same thing goes here. You'll see finally these Orc Boar Boy Biggins are being pushed in. So a little bit of mismanagement here, not the end of the world because they do get pulled into action relatively quickly, but it would have made a decent difference in the overall engagement, I would say. Meanwhile, the Goblin Wolf Riders back here, I think finally tired of just sitting back and not getting any damage in, are now taking a bit of a risk and charging in. You'll see the front lines, though, on the right here, a lot of clumping going on between the Sigmar Sons and the Greatswords and the Goblins, as well as these Savage Orcs and Savage Orc Biggins. If these Biggins had just been sent around, or of course, if these Orc Boar Boy Biggins had been pulled in from the side, Sigmar Sons would have taken a lot of damage, and these Greatswords might have been made to rout. You will see, though, the Orc War Boss comes in as some of those grenades do explode right next to him, and he does a decent amount of damage to these Greatswords, just trying to shut them down once and for all. And meanwhile, over here, another charge coming in from these Orc Boar Boy Biggins, trying to close this gap as these Savage Orc Biggins are about to surrender, trying to prevent the Tattersouls from pushing through, diving in there and getting a decent amount of damage through, again, hoping that these Savage Orc Biggins don't break with that support coming in. And meanwhile, over here as well, these Forest Goblin Spider Riders diving in after they'd been sort of sitting idle for a little while there. Back here, you'll see the Goblin Wolf Riders now being hunted down by the Spearmen, the General of the Empire, and the Amber Wizard. So these guys are not going to have a good time, while the Rusty Arrows are able to just open fire wherever they so choose. Right now, taking a lot of hurt as well. The Crossbowmen finally firing at the Rusty Arrows. Great call there. These guys are being taken care of, and that is absolutely essential because they've done a lot of damage so far already and can continue to do so. So finally, the Crossbowmen are targeting the right enemy unit. Forest Goblin Spider Riders, meanwhile, are able to push through, as the 8-peak Loonies were able to push through as well, scare off that Empire center, and now trying to shut down the Crossbowmen. Great movement there. These Forest Goblin Spider Riders could have been sent in from the flanks to get a rear charge on some of these guys and frighten them right off, or of course they could have been sent in to shut down more Crossbowmen. And over here you'll see great movement by the Orc War Boss. The General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard both come down. They see a juicy opportunity, and they dive down into the Orc War Boss, and they want to get rid of him and doing a decent amount of damage, to be fair. However, the Savage Orc Biggins are right there, alongside the Savage Orcs as well. They're not anti-large, though, but they do have Frenzy, so a lot of heavy hitting is there. The Forest Goblin Spider Rider is right there as well, so that poison damage will make a big difference. Itchy Nuisance goes down, reducing these guys' melee attack and weapon damage, so the damage output isn't as high as they'd like it to be. So great movement there by the Greenskins to respond to the Amber Wizard and the General of the Empire, both landing in one location, trying to get in there, trying to swarm them. And you'll see the Orc Boar Boy Biggins back there as well, pulling out of this engagement with the Sigmar's Sons and just diving into this location here instead, trying to shut it all down. If they can kill the General of the Empire, they'll be able to do a lot of morale damage. You'll see, though, he does pop the Potion of Toughness, trying to stay alive, trying to replenish some of those hit points, and also increase melee defense and armor, and, you know, that's a good move. Unfortunately, starts to rout, and so the Potion of Toughness isn't fully used, and that's extremely unfortunate, and that's why it's a good idea to bring in the Potion of Foolhardiness as well, because like the Orc War Boss is using the Potion of Toughness right now to replenish hit points, if he had lower morale, the Greenskins could have popped the Potion of Foolhardiness as well, and that would have ensured that the Potion of Toughness would have had its full effect. Meanwhile, you'll see the Crossbowmen trying to provide some support, trying to scare these guys off, trying to get them away from the General of the Empire, because right now the General is bogged down, is completely surrounded, is being slowed down by poison, is being slowed down by the Goblin Big Boss, the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, all of them clumping around the General, and of course the Orc War Boss as well, getting a lot of damage through. So, unfortunate situation for the General of the Empire there. Gorkle Fixit goes down as well. Insult to injury, trying to make sure that these guys are able to take care of the General of the Empire and that the General is not able to take off. Meanwhile, you will see the Wolf Riders were routed in the back there between the Spearmen and the General, as well as the Amber Wizard. The Wolf Riders really didn't showcase any of their prowess on the battlefield here, apart from being an early scout. Over here, meanwhile, you'll see the Savage Orc Biggins and the Orc Boar Boy Biggins are being handily dealt with by the Tattersouls as well as the Greatswords. So these guys, once again, made to rout. Meanwhile, in the center here, the Outriders with their grenade launchers, able to cause a decent amount of damage, beginning to scare off these Forest Goblin Spider Riders as well. Meanwhile, back here, this volley of grenades from this unit of Outriders with grenade launchers, forcing these Savage Orc Biggins to rout after having taken a significant amount of damage. You'll notice here, this unit of Sigmar's Sons, though, just kind of hanging there, not doing anything. They should have been pulled back to chase after these Savage Orc Biggins, or been sent in here to get a rear charge on these Savage Orcs, get them to scare off, get them to rout, because right now the Empire needs all the help it can get, especially with the General of the Empire so horribly surrounded, so horribly slowed down. And you'll see the Orc War Boss actually disengages and now wants to chase down the Amber Wizard, because if the Amber Wizard gets killed as well, that's a further reduction in all the support that the Empire can have. The Amber Wizard does not have Encourage. It does have Blood Roar, though, so with Blood Roar able to damage the Greenskin will to fight. Back here, you'll see another volley does go off with the grenade launchers, causing a lot of damage to the Savage Orcs. Once more, shutting down ranged fire is extremely important, and you'll see the Greenskins have actually failed to do that for the most part. The 8-peak Loonies at one point engaged this unit of crossbowmen, but apart from that, the cavalry superiority was not used to shut down the crossbowmen and the Outriders with grenade launchers. Now, unfortunately, of course, the Wolf Riders were shut down very early on, but some of these Orc Boar Boy Biggins could have been used to shut down the ranged support. Over here, though, they are being put to good use, I have to say, with the Goblin Big Boss as well, able to rout the General of the Empire ultimately, and kill him as well. And that is extremely important, because there's a difference in the morale damage done between killing the enemy leadership and allowing it to just rout. Killing it causes a lot more damage to morale, so you'll see all the units in the Empire that can take morale damage are beginning to take a fair bit more. Orc War Boss nearby as well, flying around, trying to get that fear and terror in. Dives into these Outriders with grenade launchers again, just trying to shut down that range support finally. So great movement there. These Orc Boar Boy Biggins here, taking a charge from Sigmar's Sons, should have been sort of pulled back and then charged back in to get some damage in from the charge bonus. Over here, though, the Goblins as well being pushed in. The Goblin Archers are providing some support, again, that morale damage into these Great Swords, trying to get them to pull back and force them away. Over here, meanwhile, you'll see the Crossbowmen are able to scare off some of these Greenskin units, so a decent amount of trading going off, while the Rusty Arrows now are firing into these Spearmen, reducing whatever armor they did have, what little armor they had, and really the Orc War Boss as well as the Orc Boar Boy Biggins could have been sent in to get some charges in and shut these guys down once and for all. They would probably break and shatter if they were both able to charge in at the same time and cause a lot of damage. You will see, though, the Orc War Boss is being focused down in by some of these crossbowmen and taking a decent amount of hurt at this point, taking some damage, but the Amber Wizard ventured a little bit too far out here, now being focused down on by these Goblin Archers, and took a lot of damage and almost begins to rout there. Over here now, the Orc War Boss does dive into the Spearmen over here, again, I guess trying to protect the Night Goblin Shaman, keeping the Night Goblin Shaman sort of engaged will prevent him from casting any spells. You know, Gorkle Fixit has been used to great effect in this battle so far, so trying to prevent that, I suppose. And so the Orc War Boss comes in to protect the Night Goblin Shaman, gets a decent charge in there, and they've been terrified. It took just a moment, and those guys are off the field. Meanwhile, over here, the Great Swords get hit by a great charge from these Forest Goblin Spider Riders. A lot of damage going through these Outriders with their grenade launchers, trying to get some damage done. And ultimately, a Pyrrhic victory for the Greenskins. The Empire was easily baited into charging the Orc War Boss into a very precarious situation. The General of the Empire and the Amber Wizard found themselves chasing the Orc War Boss for most of the battle, following him into a very dangerous trap, and that ultimately cost the Empire a fair bit of its leadership. After some good initial targeting, the Rusty Heirs and the Goblin Archers were also left to their own devices, giving the Greenskins control over where the Amber Wizard could and could not safely go. The battle could have gone either way, and while the Orc Warboss could have been quickly taken care of, the Greenskins did well to use him as bait instead. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn, and it's always nice to highlight great battles from the community. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.